Hi, I'm Michelle, and welcome to my podcast. Today I'm going to interview my friend Vickie. She was diagnosed back in 2016 with Parkinson's disease, and today she's going to share with us what her journey has been like from the time she was diagnosed until today, as she's figured out ways to best manage her symptoms. I hope you enjoy the show. So happy that you have joined me today to talk about your journey with Parkinson's. As you know, my audience is mostly people with Parkinson's disease, but also other professionals who work in the Parkinson's field and people with just general issues who can't get around very well. There's always some overlap, right, with Parkinson's and other issues. They share some similar issues. So I wanted to get kind of your take on what your journey has been like, because everyone's journey is different, but maybe we can learn from each other. So, can you tell me how that journey started? Um,
Me, I did, we all think we know what Parkinson's is. When you hear of a friend that has their grandpa or something that has Parkinson's, and I don't think much about it, or I never had. So, when I was traveling in 2016, my daughter had traveled off to Brazil, and we were traveling off to Dominican Republic. It was just the start of many trips for us, we thought. But while I was there, I woke up one morning and was walking around the resort, and I felt my hand kind of like get a shock down it. And I was like, that's kind of weird. Maybe I have a pinched nerve or something. Probably complained about my shoulders over the years or whatever. Didn't think much of it. And then um, the next day, I noticed my hand jump, and I was like, what in the world is happening? Because it was just sitting there, and it just my hand just flipped. And I was like, so it did it several times until we got home and still didn't think much of it. I'm like, I have no idea what this is. It's got to be this pinched nerve I have, kind of thing. So um, by this was like January 2016, and then 1st of February you finally get a doctor's visit because you're trying to schedule around your life, and you go in and he looks at the jump and he says, "It looks like Parkinson's," and I swear I just went, great. Thanks for telling me that. And I kind of left there in shock. I got home to my daughter and she was, oh my, now my phone's going off. She was, you know, already Googling and figuring everything out. And
mm,
she's like, is it Parkinson's? And I'm like, we both start crying. And I'm like, I guess so. And so we start looking into it and, pursuing what's going to happen next. And I was just terrified. I just didn't know what to think. Um, and he gives you the sentence, you won't die with it, or you won't die from it, you'll die with it. And it's like, I have no idea what that means either. Um, I honestly don't believe that that's true anymore. Um, so anyway, as we proceed forward, I went back to him. First I urged him to get me in touch with a neurologist because I'm
mm.
like, I don't believe you.
Yeah,
So
not a bad
I'm like,
idea.
you can tell me that, but and I granted this is a good doctor and I would have trusted him, I still trust him with my life because he's probably the smartest, one of the smarter ones.
Mhm.
But so I went to a neurologist, and of course you do the walk and the talk and the fingers and all that stuff. And he's like, yeah, looks like it. And I go, I still think you're wrong. So we ordered an MRI, one or two. It's still coming back and saying yes. And I'm like, well, I still don't believe you. And at the time, Renown had started a partnership with Stanford. And so I said, send me to Stanford. I want to see movement disorder specialists because I still don't believe any of you guys. So I go down there, walk in his office, do the walk talk for him. And he's like, looks like Parkinson's. And I'm like, God, you're wrong. At the time, because part of the problem was is in January of 2016 when I came back, I was also having hyperthyroidism. So for whatever reason, my thyroid was being all out of whack, and I was, losing weight like a crazy person and taking thyroid medications to get that calmed down. So as each doctor I saw, he said, "Well, we could give you this medication for your Parkinson's," and I'm like, "I'm not taking any of your medications for Parkinson's until we get everything else straightened out." So as a result, the Stanford doctor obviously looked at me and said the same thing. And I still said, I'm not taking your medication for a while because I hear the sooner you start on them, you're. And I go, and really the only symptom I had was the small tremor. My hand would jump.
Okay.
And my stride was starting to change. It was kind of slowing down a little bit. And I had some dystonia in my foot that came on. And I'm not even sure how soon that came on. It just was like my foot started twisting and couldn't figure out why or what was going on with that. It was my ankle or something. I'm like, did I break my ankle? Did I sprain myself? What am I doing? So as a result, I, just continued on, and within so that was 2016, 2017 came and I just went to the doctor as needed. Didn't think much of it, didn't probably deal with any of it. Kept
So
thinking it's going to
physically,
go
you
away.
were getting along pretty well.
Yeah, I was still working full time, 2016, 2017. And then in 2018, late 2018, or somewhere in the middle there, I started having these weird episodes where I was kind of dizzy. And I thought, I'm just not drinking water. So, and then, these episodes kept coming. And I kept saying to the doctor, I says, we have to address these episodes. And he says, oh, they're just part of Parkinson's. And I'm like, okay. So he's like, you should start the medications. I'm like, I'm not starting the medications yet. So, because they weren't happening often enough, they were probably like once a month. I'd be out somewhere and I just called them episodes.
Mm-hmm.
Then in late 2018, I decided, since I wasn't on medication yet, I was still an early Parkinson's patient. They put me on a clinical trial, which was the Spark trial for Biogen. And that medication, I guess, after learning about it taking it for 3 years, I learned I was one of the patients who received it the entire time. It made no difference. So the trial was ended abruptly in 2021. And because of the fact that it made no difference, or they weren't finding any results that they liked. You can look it up online still, and you can start to see what the drug was, but it didn't do anything. It was supposed to help with the clumping of the alpha-synucleins in the brain. So let's see, I was on the clinical trial. 2019 came, and I decided to start in the meantime, I was exercising, but the doctor was just saying to me, exercise every day. And I thought 20, 30 minutes in the morning, go for a walk was all I was doing, or using the treadmill or, whatever exercise equipment I liked at the time.
Mm-hmm.
So in 2019 came and I started finding out about RockSteady boxing and, big exercises. So I went through the whole big program in early 2019. And in the middle of May of 2019, I joined RockSteady boxing. And that's really where things started making a difference. At the time, I was still about 210 pounds, which is a lot, but not for me. That's where I've spent most of my adult life. I was happy and, was active, but yet I was still 200 pounds. So by the end of 2019, I had dropped 50 pounds because of boxing, in the late 2019s, they decided that these episodes I was having was so much Parkinson's that I had to start taking the medication. The medication just made me not feel well, or feeling well meant I had to stop eating. So I really cut back on my eating because it didn't make me feel well to eat and take medication. So my diet just started being more and more restricted to feel well. By doing that, I lost the weight. By doing that, I was exercising more, and RockSteady boxing had become really a part of my life. I was still working full time, doing RockSteady boxing 3 days a week, and still trying to get up every morning and do my 20 to 30 minutes in the morning. As I would start to see the weight come off more and more, I would start to get a little nervous. So I would kind of cut back on the mornings, but still try to do RockSteady boxing. The clinical trial was still going on. So monthly I was traveling down to Stanford, taking a flight down, Ubering over to the visit, get my infusion, get back in the Uber, fly home. I don't even know how I had the stamina to do it, because doing it today, I would be like, I'm dead, 3 days off,
That's a lot. Yeah.
So by, by the, let's see, by about 2021, and the clinical trial had ended. These episodes were still occurring. I'm fighting with all my doctors saying, please just address the episodes. I kept thinking I probably could deal with Parkinson's if I wasn't having these episodes. The reason I'm kind of emphasizing on them is because it took a little while for them to admit. And it took a while for my doctors to admit what was going on. So here I am. I've seen my primary care. I've seen the first neurologist in Reno. I saw a movement disorder specialist in Stanford and the clinical trial movement disorder specialist. I come back to Reno I'm in Reno in 2021. I have a new movement disorder specialist, and I'm still saying, what are we going to do about these episodes that we're having? Because they were up to 4 times a day at some point when they would get really bad.
Yeah.
And that was probably worse in 2019, 2020. But so here I am arguing with these doctors. So by 2021 comes around, I have another movement disorder specialist. I literally walked into his office and I said, I don't care what else you do to me, but we are going to figure out what the flip, I was trying to swear, what the flip these episodes are. And he looks at me and he's like, well, how long do they last? And I said, I've told you, they can last up to 90 seconds, but I'm exhausted afterwards. And he's like, what are they again? I'm like, so I'm going through the whole explanation of what they were. And, I just felt nauseous, dizzy, confused. If I were to speak, I would speak garbage. It would just be gibberish or nonsense. My daughter would be like, what did you just say to me? And I'd be like, what did I just say to you? I have no idea. I lost 90 seconds,
It's like you blacked out in essence, like you don't remember.
I can remember speaking and I can remember seeing her face and having her say, what are you talking about? But I have no idea what I said. I couldn't even repeat it back. If I said, like I said, I was talking, but it would be something totally obscure. So if we were talking about Disneyland, I would say something about the door. And it's like, what? So she'd be like, why did you just say that? And I'm like, I don't know. What did I say? So they finally did a 3-day EEG on me and found out I was having focal onset seizures. So it was serious enough to address, but I don't know, how can 6 doctors miss it, kind of thing. When you look around the room in a neurologist's office, you're like, seizures, huh? Am I having exactly that? Oh no, you just have Parkinson's, It's
a little bit of that tunnel vision, I think.
Right.
You have that diagnosis, it must just be that.
Must be that, right.
God forbid you might actually have 2 things going on that are completely separate. Yeah.
Well, and the thyroid calmed down within the first 6-8 months back in 2016, but here I'm having these seizures, and stuff, and again, they weren't severe enough to stop me from doing anything. I could still drive a car, I could still function, I was still working, I was doing presentations in front of crowds. I would just, if I had one, I would just pause, take a deep breath, and like look around the room going, I hope I didn't say something ridiculous. And just continue on.
Did they never happen while you were driving?
They did happen once or twice while I was driving, but again, it would be like, it's going to pass. I could tell myself that, enough of that to say it's going to pass, just hold the steering wheel and it'll go. And it would pass. And I'd be like, look at the person next to me and they're like, did you just have one? I go, yeah, I'm fine though. Let's go,
Oh
kind of
my
thing.
gosh,
And
scary.
And so, yeah, and that's why everybody was flipping out on me, kind of like, you have to have these addressed. And I'm like, I'm trying. I can't stand on my head anymore. But finally, the doctor did address it. And I've been taking medications now I think I've been taking them since, what was it? February of 22. So it's been almost 2 years that I've been on medications for it and they're under control. And now I'm ready to get off the medication. I'm like, because I really think it was something in my brain and everything's I think Parkinson's just messes up the whole system. It just throws your system off.
Yeah.
There's rewiring that needed to be done or something. So, but back in 21 as well, after yelling at the doctor enough and starting to listen to more and more webinars and podcasts, I listened to Dr. Dorsey. And I can't remember the title of his book right now, but he said you needed to exercise more. Exercise is the key. And I'm like, well, I'm exercising, 20, 30 minutes in the morning. I'm doing RockSteady boxing. What do I need to do now? And he said 2 hours a day. So I said, okay, if that's going to help, I'll do 2 hours a day. So through COVID, because we were still out on COVID time. So I was starting to exercise 2 hours a day. And that seemed to help a lot with my muscle strength and such, but I was still having some problems because my walk would still be off when I would, how do I say it, when I'd have off times. So I'd start to freeze sometimes and such. And as a result, it's taken a while, but I feel like the exercise is really paying off. And because I feel stronger and healthier than I've felt in years. But at the same time, I would be happy to be fat and sassy like I was in 2016. I'd rather I'd rather go back. People look at me now and think, "Oh, you look so great," and it's like I don't feel like I'm not worried about that. Please stop looking at my physique. Look at the fact that I'm struggling, to sit here in this chair calmly. But yeah, it's just it's a different life, and the exercise is the key, I think, to everything. The diet is the key to everything. Meeting with people and talking to people about it, and just even being around people is everything. I know that I still struggle times trying to get everything in a day, that the exercising. I'm not always good so much anymore about 2 hours a day because of the fact that I don't need to lose any more weight. Right. So I have to really monitor that, make sure I'm eating.
So what's your general activity routine through the week? I know you said you did RockSteady 3 days a week.
Right. So as a result of doing RockSteady for so long, I've started helping some of the people that are seated doing exercises. So Tuesday, Thursday, we have a 2 o'clock class where I sit with them and do an hour of exercise. And then at 3 o'clock, we have the regular class and I do an hour of that exercise with them as a participant versus a leader from the 2 o'clock class. So that's Tuesday, Thursday. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I'm swimming. So I'm trying to swim. I got to do that. Finally, the pool opened again. So I swim or I do weights and exercises Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I try to work in a walk in addition to if I can. But it's most important that I do my physical therapy exercises, which have made a huge difference. I think we talked about that at one point too, how I found a physical therapist who finally addressed some of the muscle problems that I was having. So that's Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Saturdays, I do RockSteady boxing. Sundays, I try to take the day off because I just, everybody needs a day off.
Yes.
But so it's probably more around 8 to 10 hours a week that I get in versus the 2 hours a day, which was the goal. I realize
I hear strength and agility and endurance. Anything specifically for balance?
In RockSteady boxing, we work on that as well. I think some of my balance issues may still be from the seizure medication that I'm on, but I'm not sure, and that's why I'm trying to figure out if I really need to be on it. I know the most important for me is that I have to work out above my level of ability. So I have to push myself. Because if I just take an easy workout, and sometimes the seated workouts are easy, they're really easy for me to lead, then I find that I'm not getting the bang for the buck. Why am I there if I'm not getting any reward from it? And the same thing's true of RockSteady boxing. If I'm just going to kind of go there and, punch like a little girl, then I'm not going to get anything from that either. Same thing with swimming. I can't go swim and just take my time. I've got to actually push myself beyond my limit. Because it's not helping me in the long run. I find that I'm just struggling constantly and it's not a good day, kind of thing. But I also know that I have to be kind to myself and make sure I stretch every evening, because if I don't stretch before bed, then I could wake up in the middle of the night with, tightness and such that still continues. And like I said, the physical therapy exercises, I try to do those in addition to all the other stuff. I try to isolate those exercises because of the fact that what she determined with me is that some of my muscles, I wasn't using my I can do, like you can do squats and lunges and push-ups and all those things, but there's still some muscles that aren't being used. And I was just complaining of a pain in my side and my hip, and she assigned me some exercises to do to build my core more. And I'm like, oh my God, I didn't even, I'm using extra muscles I've not used, is what it
Mm-hmm.
really came down to. Muscles that are deep inside, like the piriformis and
Mm-hmm.
your core muscles that make up so much of you that you tend not to use, or you compensate. I was
Yes.
compensating with other muscles. So as a result of doing all of those things, I know I'm stronger and I know I'm feeling better, and the medications are finally working out. And um, it's it's just, I hope that explains most of my journey. But
Yes. No,
um,
it does. It's quite the journey you've been on, but you've
yeah,
been such a strong advocate for yourself, which I think has made a huge difference for you. So
right,
many people are kind of passive and just, oh, the doctor said do this, and so I guess that's the answer. But you didn't take that.
right. I think we all start out there thinking
Hmm.
that, the idea of like, they just kind of assign the first regimen. What's the first regimen? Well, you take a carbidopa cinnamate or whatever, one pill 3 times a day, every 4 hours or whatever they say.
Hmm.
Um, and you try that and you're like, okay. So you try that and you're like, this isn't working. Or this is not, I need more or I need less. And they start just piling it on.
Hmm.
And it's so frustrating for me because it it would work for a little while. I mean, I can go from, this whole um, shaking, tremor, not being able to step, freeze almost, to what I feel like is 100% back to normal, or at least 95%
Hmm.
with the medications when they're doing it right. But they never really tell you that until about 6 years in. It's like, well, you could try this instead of this. And it's like, why didn't you tell me that from day one, that I could
Hmm.
play with these medications,
Hmm.
because I don't think you can do that with, all the other medications you've taken in the past. You think of
No.
like painkillers or estrogen or,
Blood pressure
whatever,
medicines.
blood
No, you
pressure
can't play with them.
medication. Yeah, birth control, whatever you've
Yeah.
taken in the
Yeah.
past. You
Yeah.
can't sit there and go, oh, I'll just take one today and three tomorrow, kind of thing. You can't do that. But this carbidopa thing is like, well, just see how it works for you, because everybody's different. You hear that
Hmm.
all the time too. And you spend your whole, I feel like I spend my whole time trying to figure out what medications work and don't work.
Yeah.
And and they'll just start piling them on. Well, we could try this, we could try this, we could try this, we could try this. And so as a result of my frustration with my local doctor, my movement disorder specialist, after I swore at him and then went, see, I have something wrong with me. I have seizures. So I started seeing a seizure doctor here in town for, those things. But then I said, I'm going to find another doctor. So my doctor's actually in Los Angeles right now, who I fly down to see
Wow.
every 3 or 4 months, because I got so frustrated with all the people in town, and all the people that I've seen. So it's like
Mm.
doctor number 7 or something for Parkinson's. And she's the one who's mostly saying, play with the medications, take a boost. If you need
Mhm.
something more before exercise, take it a little extra half. And I'm like, I feel like a drug addict taking a boost. You talk about people who took Oxycontin or
Mhm.
whatever that drug was. They took well, I needed a bump. It's like I need a bump. Just so
How
I'm
have you,
pulling out pills
how do
in the
you feel
corner.
like the increased activity, your pretty structured regimen, how has that influenced how much medication you need? Have you noticed that you
The
don't have to increase as much as maybe other people or
you know, the, yes and no. For whatever reason, Cinemet only works for me for about 2 hours. So if I take a pill, it only works for about 2 hours. If I take one and a half, it's only 2 hours. If I take two, it's only 2 hours. So,
wow.
so to me, my experiment has been, I can take one every 2 hours and I have a really good day. I haven't started taking them yet. It's probably my problem. I should take one earlier, but um, so if I take them every 2 hours, I have a good day. So back in 20, gosh, when he started me on the medications, we did play with them a little bit. And I was doing about 2.5 hours. One pill every 2.5 hours is what I could get, finally convince my one Stanford doctor to assign to me. But, the moment I saw the Reno doctor, he was like, no, you need to take ropinirole and this with
Mm.
it to make it last longer. And I'm like, all I'm doing now is trying to figure out when to take the ropinirole to make it last longer. So really, what I'm trying to say is that back in the beginning, I was taking 6 pills a day and at the regimen that it was working. And now I'm still taking 6 pills a day. They just happen to be a little closer together. So that's not changed significantly other than before exercise. If I'm going to do a really hard exercise, which I do, I take a bump before the exercise begins.
Mhm.
And with that, so it's probably 6.5 during the day. And at night, I've lessened them. So I was probably taking 4 at night before, and now I'm down to 3. So it kind of is balancing out.
Okay.
So yeah, I wish I could say, there's people that do say, I exercise more and I don't need as many pills.
Hmm.
I get the idea that it the exercise helps. And there's even days when I think I could probably even take less, I
Yeah.
could probably get down to 7 pills. If I don't really need to walk a great distance or I'll go exercise and I come home, I can sit around and take less medication
Hmm.
because I really don't shake or tremor as much as as much as I do if I'm active,
Hmm.
if I'm just sitting home relaxing. So my tremor will lessen and everything will calm down if I can get my whole physique to calm down. So it's like my autonomic nervous system is under fire, kind
Uh-huh.
of thing.
Have you
And so
tried any other like mind body, more relaxing type activities like Tai Chi, yoga, you know, things that are
I
calming?
I haven't done Tai Chi or yoga, but I do try to, do the concentrate on the meditation or trying to
Hmm.
relax, making purposeful time
Yeah.
to try to calm myself down. And that does help, and stuff. But
Yeah. Well, the fact
um
that you haven't increased your medication over the last 6 years, I think
right.
still speaks to the efficacy of the exercise, right? I mean,
Oh,
if you hadn't,
I right. Right. I truly believe in that if I wasn't exercising, I would be a different person. I would be struggling more. My attitude would suck because if I miss day 2 or 3 of exercise, my
mhm.
attitude sucks. You don't want to be around me. It's like
And
I'm just
physically,
like,
what do you notice physically with your symptoms or whatever if you don't exercise for a few days?
oh, I'll feel like my feet are in mud. I'll just kind of like slow down completely. The medications can kind of always take that edge off,
Mm-hmm.
but it's just more like I just don't want to do anything, and it's like I've got to do the exercise to get myself to do more, to want to do more too. I found myself at the really crazy story was I found myself at Disneyland, and you probably hear this from other people too. There was a lot of stimulation. So, you've got the music, you've got the nighttime going, you got the lights going, you've got a million people who are running into you,
Yeah.
you know, because no matter what, that place is overpopulated. So
Mm-hmm.
you're wandering through the park and you're doing your thing. And I think I was even using my poles at the time with the hope that it would help support me. And also possibly like ward off people. It wasn't
Yeah.
so much
It's
that I
like a
needed them myself
signal.
to walk,
Yeah.
but it's like, hello, I'm over here walking with these poles. I don't want to be walking with these poles, but you know, there's obviously something wrong with that lady, kind of
Yeah.
thing.
Right.
So,
It is. It can
so
be a
stay away
signal.
from her. So I would start walking and then all of a sudden I would freeze and I was just like in a, getting more and more nervous. So I think my autonomic nervous system just starts like saying, protect mode.
Hmm.
And so I just started freezing and literally by the time I came to accept after about an hour and a half of like, I'm not moving anywhere, guys. We're not making it out of this park without assistance. So they got me a wheelchair and they got me out of the park and I get back to the hotel and I can finally like get in a little corner and take my body and relax.
Hmm.
And I'm like, okay. And then I could stand up and walk. And I'm like, so I know over being overstimulated is a factor. And but the next morning, because so that the morning of the freezing episode at Disneyland, I didn't get to exercise. So the next morning I said to him, you guys go to breakfast and go to the gym. So
Okay.
I went to the gym, did 30 minutes on the elliptical, did a few weights, and was like, okay, I can make it through this day, you know. And I went
Uh-huh.
to the park without the walking poles, without any assistance, and I made it through the entire day without any problem. But
Wow.
so the exercise is what gets me moving, gets
Mm-hmm.
the body to calm down, gets it in its right alignment, and says you can go kick ass today.
It's
So
a great
so
testament to starting the day right.
right. So,
Nice.
and yeah, so it was such a difference that I'm like, and I told them, you know, my family would travel together, etc. But it's like now it's like you have to realize I need this, you know. They're like, well, we came on vacation. We don't want to do any exercise in the morning. Why would we be exercising on vacation? Well, exercise is not for me to look good.
It's like your
That's not
morning
why
cup
I'm
of coffee.
right. It's like my
Get
morning cup
going.
of coffee. It's like, give me 2 cups of coffee and put me on elliptical and I'll be happier than hell all day long. So, but yeah, so that's kind of what it's evolved into for me is that if I don't have it, I'm not moving. And it medication working or not, if we want it to work well and keep me going all day, then you want me exercised.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
So at this stage of the game where you seem to have everything pretty well figured out, generally speaking, what would you say is still your biggest challenge, whether it be physically, emotionally, socially?
So I told my therapist the other day, because you know, we all have one of those now. So um I said, you know, I've fought my whole life to do everything I wanted to do with my life, you know, as a child, as a college student, as a young adult, you know, to get my career started or whatever it was. I feel like I fought my whole life, you know, and I'll fight this Parkinson's. And this is going to make me choke up, but I'm not going to win this fight. At some point, it's going to slow me down completely, and that's the scariest part. So I can I can continue fighting, and I will fight till the end, you know, and it will lengthen my life. But it's gonna Parkinson's is gonna shorten it. So I'm fighting that bastard, you know, no matter how you come hell or high water. But at the same time, I know I'm not gonna win this battle, and I think that's the scariest part of all this is that it takes all the fighting in the world out of me some days, and I just have to sit there. So there are days when I will literally say, I'm not giving up. Don't misunderstand. I need a day just to sit there and wallow in my pity, I guess.
Mm.
And so I will just spend the day on the couch, and my husband will be like, what are we doing today? And I go, nothing. We are doing nothing. I'm not leaving this chair. And he's like, at all? And I'm like, okay, we'll go to Costco later or something. But you know, but it's like,
Wow.
yeah.
And what
So
about your social support system then? Family or other people with Parkinson's? Do you find that you gravitate toward them for that, or do you?
yeah, yes, it is RockSteady Boxing. We are a family and we are a great family. And without them, I know that's the other part of it. You can walk in there feeling like, oh God, I have Parkinson's. But when you get in around them and you're like, I'm just a person working out, you know? I mean, I'm shaking and tremoring or stumbling and whatever you're doing that you're having difficulty with. Um, you're just a person in the room with a bunch of other people. Yes, we all have the same thing in common. We all have Parkinson's to some varying ability and stuff, you know. Um, and you see them struggle, and you're like, we're doing this together. We're just fighting it together.
Mhm.
And so with them, we do a lot of activities. We do breakfasts, we do lunches, we do support groups, we In fact, I have one tomorrow. So we're just constantly meeting, trying to help each other make it through this because we all don't know what it is still. And I think that's the worst part is we may not know what it is other than what we are experiencing day to day, but the doctors have no flipping clue what this is because they don't know what it feels like. They don't know what it feels like to be in frozen, to feel like they're walking in mud. You could say it like that and they could kind of like, yeah, I think I've walked in mud before, kind of thing, but they don't know what it means to be truly with Parkinson's. So they look at you and think, well, you're not dying, kind of thing. It's only 90-second seizures, it's only, this or it's only that. They tend to, you know, um, dismiss things and such. I even heard a doctor one time say, well, as a neurologist, we go through and make sure you don't have any brain tumors or anything that's life threatening. And then when we discover it's Parkinson's, we're kind of relieved. And I'm like, relieved? And and I think that was his argument. It was like, well, we know you're not dying and it's nothing urgent, but it's just Parkinson's. And it's like,
Just
I
Parkinson's.
I heard that. I was listening to a webinar on it, and I just like the moment he said that, I went, click, I'm not listening to this fool anymore. So it's just insane how they can just dismiss things like that. And
Hmm.
um, yeah, it's unfortunate. But
Yeah, I don't know that that's anything that can change because they'll never know what it's like unless they get,
right.
of course. Um,
Yeah, I think someday, someday I hope they figure it out, kind of thing.
yeah.
Someday I hope they um, are more permissive on giving assistance to people with Parkinson's in the sense that there are things out there. You hear of things coming out that are available on the market, not on the market, but that are being created, and they're constantly dragging their feet to get through phase one, phase two, phase three, phase review,
Mhm.
everything. It took them 3 years to tell me even what drug I was taking on my trial. I'm like, well, what is it called? What was it? So it ended in 21. I've been looking, trying to figure it out. And I, I never got an answer from my own doctor. She just said you were on the trial drug at the end of I think it was in 2022. It was a year later. She finally said, well, yes, you received it the entire time. And I'm like, well, what was it? And well, we're not disclosing that yet. I'm like, okay, so when do I
What?
get to know that? And
Even when it
so
was over.
yeah,
Interesting.
they just kept dragging it out. I'm like, can I see all my documentations? Well, no, those are secret. I'm like, why is okay? You stop fighting with
Yeah.
stupidity,
Yeah. Pick
but
your fights, pick your battles.
right,
Yeah.
yeah.
I want to circle back to where you were talking about your diet and such. Can you tell me more about what you have found with your diet? What's worked and what hasn't worked?
My diet. Oh gosh. um, I at one point it was I call it vegetarian, kind of thing. I had to give up meat completely. It just what it is what I was finding for my well feeling was that meats didn't digest well. So I just went vegetarian. And then they start telling me, well, no, you can't take the protein that's vegetarian when you're taking your pills because they'll conflict. And I didn't even recognize that happening for a long time because I think my pills were working enough
Hmm.
for the symptoms I was having. So and then I tried fish and fish would help, but that protein was a little bit strong still, and then the pills wouldn't work for a couple hours after that, and that kind of thing. So I think I've redefined it as it's called the Mind Diet, MIND,
Right?
and it's mostly Mediterranean. I've had to give up all fried foods, all beef for sure. Sometimes I have chicken and fish, but it's very sparingly. Um, Not complete. I do not eat any dairy at all. So no fried foods, no dairy, and I think those are and then no meat, less meat than ever. Let's say it
So
that
how
way.
are you getting your protein? Because
I do a lot of beans and a lot of nuts during the day, kind of thing.
and those don't
I
interfere as much with the medications as the other protein.
usually I try to do completely vegetarian in the mornings to noon. So I've eaten, like oatmeal in the morning, and um, the least amount of protein I can in those, with it being like almond milk is not that, it's not significant, but it's some. Then at dinner time, I have my protein. Now I have to realize that if I'm going to have that protein, I'm probably not going to have any medication that works fully. So I'm not going to like fall over or freeze up or, lay on the ground suffering or anything like that. It's just the medication's truly not working. And my walking will be a little labored, and I'll be slower. But I'm at home. So,
Yeah.
and if I have a full day where I'm out, I leave the house at 8, like Disneyland days and stuff, as long as I've exercised in the morning and, we come home at 10, 11 at night, then I'll probably just have a complete vegetarian day, making sure there's really the least amount of protein that I can in very small portions. Um, that's the other thing. I go to a gastroenterologist, helping, like, well, how can I get my food to digest easier? Well, and they immediately go, well, most Parkinson's patients have gastroparesis, which slows your digestion, and you're like, we've done a test on you, but your digestion's a little bit faster. So we could do another test to see if that's still true. But in reality, if you do best eating very small portions throughout the day, just snack all day long. I'm like, sure, dude, sounds perfectly easy. And I'm like, well, when I do that, I worry about losing too much weight. And he goes, you could probably lose a couple more pounds. Like, these asshole doctors, I swear to God. They say they say things that are so flippant at times that you're just like, did he actually say that to me? And I mean, granted, I'm not a size 0, but I
Right.
also have some muscle on me, kind of thing. I don't really need to or want to lose any more weight. Why dude? It's like, so my goal is really small portions. The other day I got really hungry and I ate something bigger than normal. And sure enough, I'm paying the consequences by everything slowing down and meds don't work a couple sessions through, but I still take them just to make sure that I get a little bit. Um, if I'm completely out of meds in my system, the dystonia will come back. It usually happens early in the morning, like first thing. And because overnight I've taken less, kind of stuff and kind of drug it out. But in reality, it's okay. I really think I could probably live without as much Cinemet if I wasn't freezing. You can walk.
Yeah,
And
that's
I
the
know,
problem.
yeah. And I know people look at me and think, well, you've got a tremor. Maybe you should get DBS. And I look at them and go, you can take your DBS. And because even the doctors, that's why I stopped seeing the Reno guy. That's the other thing he wanted me to do. He's like, you need to do DBS. And I'm like, why? And he said, because there's nothing else for you to do if you're complaining about being on and off meds. And I'm like, maybe you should perfect your medication. So, and he's like, well, that's not possible. And I'm like, well, what does DBS do? And he says, well, it may relieve some of your symptoms with your tremor, is what the hope is. And if you start to get dyskinesia, and I'm like, I don't think I have that yet. I think I know my tremor can get bad, especially under stress, which is what I'm experiencing right now. But so, um, but he said I go, what about my walk? Because my concern is when I'm off medications, like I said, the dystonia will come back, but my gait will slow or maybe I freeze. And he says, well, it might help with that. It possibly could help your gait. And I'm like, you know what? I don't like your adjectives. so, that was the last time I saw
Okay.
him.
Now, I know one or two people who've had the pump. Is that something? I know it's not.
Is that the one that goes into your gut?
Yes.
Yeah. Ideally, I know that's probably what I would need because getting past your digestion system. But there's new things coming out. They're talking about there's a subcutaneous system that they can attached to you that will go into your bloodstream, kind of like they deliver diabetes drugs.
Mm-hmm.
And I say very similar to it because that's the way they explain it. But it's, in stage 4 trials or phase
Yeah.
4 trials. They're at the point where they're trying to get it made and marketed. I understand that Europe has received it. So,
I think so.
but I don't know what the FDA does, they don't understand,
Well,
why,
each
why we
their
could,
own. Mm-hmm.
yeah. We could start down that track of like why
Yeah.
they can make COVID shots available within the first 6 months, and I can't get a subcutaneous delivery system of Parkinson's drug after 4 years of making it. Anyway,
Yeah.
but so there's goals out there for that kind of stuff I'm waiting for because, like I said, the medications do work. I can feel 95%, to 100% sometimes when I'm on the medication.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I'm not too worried about the dyskinesias at this point, but at the same time, I don't really, I'm not going to do a surgery unless they can tell me, I will put this chip in your brain and you will walk freely for the rest of your life. And I'll be like, I'm there. Sign me up, put me on the table.
Mm-hmm.
But they're not, they can't say that affirmation statement, or whatever it is that they have for me. So until then, I just take it one day at a time,
Mm-hmm.
and some days are better than others.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like you have pretty decent control over the whole thing.
Yeah, it's taken me a long time to understand what that means.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I really think the doctors should tell you that in the beginning. You know, if they're kind enough to say, you're not going to die from it, you'll die with it. They should be able to say, and the first 7 years, 8, 10 years of it, you'll be experimenting with medications on a daily basis. So
Yeah.
to try to figure out what works for you, because I think that's really it. And I don't think they should tell you things like, oh, you'll probably only work for 5 more years or whatever it is that they do.
Mm-hmm.
Doctors are so dumb.
Mm-hmm.
Even if I ask that question, don't answer that question.
Yeah.
Just say everybody's different. Just keep saying that over and over again. Everybody's different. We don't know how you'll respond to the medication. Everybody's different. We don't know how exercise will do for you. Everybody's different. But here are the 3 things that we do know for sure help.
Mm-hmm.
Exercise, does help. And improving your diet does help. Socializing with people does help. Do those 3 things. Make sure you're doing those three things with intensity and perseverance, and then see where it goes. But
Do you feel like doctors really touch very much on the non-medicinal things like the exercise, the support, the diet, or do you have to figure it out on your own?
I think in the beginning, that first doctor at Stanford did say exercise every day. And I went, okay, I can do that. And started, and he's the one that made me start. I mean, at the time, I was probably exercising on my own 2 to 3 days a week anyway, as a normal adult would. But
Mm-hmm.
um, he really pushed that, make sure it's every day and every morning. And I think that really helped me work as long as I did. But I don't think they really emphasize. In fact, I just heard a talk the other day, and a doctor said, one doctor says, like Dr. Dorsey, who says, he's not quite as adamant about saying 2 hours a day anymore. But Dr. Dorsey's now saying at least 1 hour a day, his last presentation I saw.
He's being a
And then the
realist.
doctor presenting was asked the same question. Well, what kind of exercise? What should it be? And the doctor, he's like kind of a new local guy. And he's saying, well, at least, you should exercise as much as you can. He started kind of watering it down because I think what happens is these men with Parkinson's and of age have never exercised their entire life.
Except for a
They've
little
stayed fit
golf or
or they've,
something. Yeah.
yeah, but it's not like exercise, kind of thing where the intensity and ferociousness that we think that I think of, so the doctors are like a little afraid to say, go to the gym, kind of thing. So as a result, they're kind of start watering it down, to make, like not scare them off, because we've had guys come into the RockSteady boxing who literally will see me killing myself, look at me and like, is that hard? And I'm like, yeah, it's friggin' hard. Do you think I did it easily? I mean, I got here from 5 years of doing this. This didn't happen overnight. I'm not saying you have to get to my level, but you have to work out beyond your level, you
Mhm.
know, and that terrifies them. And I don't say I say guys, it could be women as well.
Yeah.
They come in, they're like, I can't do that. And it's like, we're not asking you to do that. We're asking you to do it at your ability.
Mhm.
You have to push yourself is all that we're trying to say in exercise, but they're I think the doctors are afraid to say how hard they should exercise or the benefit they'll get from intense exercise because they
Mhm.
don't want to scare them off, you know? Or if they go out and hurt themselves, then they're responsible for them hurting themselves.
Mhm.
And go to the gym and trip over a piece of equipment and then well, my doctor told me I had to come here.
Well, in this world of liability and yeah, that's sad. Sad.
Yeah, yeah.
So what
So
would be your advice to someone?
newly diagnosed or diagnosed at
Well, let's
all
go both.
is
Let's go someone newly diagnosed. How would you say for
you have
them
to
to
fight
start?
for yourself. You have to make sure you're communicating every ache and pain and ailment. Because I have, there's people that come in and go, well, I never told my doctor that. It's like, I tell my doctor everything. You know, what he does with it is another story. But yeah, I think you have to know your body. And I think that was one of my benefits in the beginning is you knowing your body, you know, like this is not normal, this is normal. Because even as they start to experiment with your medications, you're like, if if this is not what I've been experiencing, but this medication's making me feel this way, then there's something wrong with that medication.
Mhm.
It's not the one, that's not the right one for you, kind of thing. Because there's so many out there and they'll just start experimenting on you. So you have to know your body and you have to be able to say when things are going well and things are not going well,
Mhm.
as they try to find the perfect mix of medications for you. And I don't know that you have to start the medications. Don't walk into the doctor and have them look at you and go, Parkinson's, here's a pill, because everybody's different and you may not need that pill right now. So don't think automatically like they're going to fix this because they may not fix it. And not everybody has the same experience where he looks at your hand and it jumps and he says it's Parkinson's and he was right. I told him later that he was an ass for telling me that way, but um, so because I've seen him many times, but um, yeah, I hear the stories of people that take 3 or 4 years of diagnosing, and it's like, I'm not sure what you're experiencing then, but it's probably better that you didn't start the medications 2 or 3 years earlier. So just,
Mhm.
you started them when you needed to. I don't think you have to rush into it, but definitely knowing your body and being able to tell the doctor what's going on and fighting for your right to complain
Yeah.
and your health and your well-being, because you can't sit back and just expect the doctor to do it because those guys and women do not know what Parkinson's is unless they've experienced it themselves. And they may have seen a grandparent or a great uncle or something or great aunt experience it, but it's not the Parkinson's we're living right now. And that's what I think is really hard. So
So what about someone who's had it for a while and really hasn't done a lot about it, just taken their medicines? What would
you
you say?
our muscles and our strength and our ability to grow physically is still there. The thing that's messed up in us is our brain. So our automaticity is what's broken. The fact that I can't walk when my meds don't work is because my brain doesn't work. It's not my body that can't work. I can make my brain pick my foot up. Pisses me off when I have to say pick up my flipping foot, but at the same time, that doesn't that hasn't stopped. I can still control my body. I hope that it never comes to a point where I can't control anything. Maybe that'll happen. But my muscles are
Mhm.
still there. So and I can still rebuild them. So when I find this missing muscle that I haven't used for 20 years or for the last 10 years because I've been complaining of a hip pain that I thought was just Parkinson's, um, you have to start somewhere. And I don't care if you're, 75 and you're like, I just found out I have Parkinson's and they're telling me I have to exercise and I've never exercised my entire life. It's like, then start exercising, do whatever's comfortable to you to start with, but at least find a group because I think doing it alone is going to make it even harder,
Mhm.
having your wife take you to the gym and you're like, I don't want to be around these people, kind of thing isn't going to help, or your spouse, or male or female, you know, isn't going to help you if you're just being kind of dropped off. So you need a group of people to do it with. And I think the RockSteady boxing is, or something similar, whether it's, I know there's a bunch out there that are not just strictly RockSteady boxing. There's power, there's, like we talked about big, and, there's all kinds of things that you can do as in groups too. And I think more and more groups are starting to be created that aren't strictly boxing ones, because I think some people are still intimidated by the boxing, but I think we hardly box. We probably spend more time exercising than boxing, but so I think it's important for them to start exercising. And I think they have to look at their diet. These people that are still eating cheeseburgers and milkshakes at lunchtime, I just cringe. I'm just like, oh my God. It's called the mind diet because it does affect your brain. I think it's also given to people that have Alzheimer's because it slows, by eating healthy at this stage. And again, everybody's different. Some people can eat a milkshake and a burger every day for the rest of their lives and not have a single problem. But because we're in this stage where our brain is actually being affected by everything we put into it, because obviously our gut is dropping right into my brain instead of my muscles. But it's like, I think they have to start addressing the fact that their diet may be causing some of their problems, and many of them don't want to hear that. When I post it on Facebook, I get like nobody really responds or likes my comment. It's like everything else I say is like, wow, great, that's wonderful. And then it's like, yeah, I hate these diet comments. And they're like, I'm not even going to say I like it. Like, or I feel your pain or anything, kind of thing. They just ignore them because I know it's about giving up all those things you want to eat, and, when you go out with your friends, what's the first thing you want to do? 3 appetizers and they're all fried. So it's like,
yeah. Sometimes we have to do things that aren't comfortable, but in the long run, you feel better. So
right, exactly. So so whatever stage you're in, you've got to start somewhere. And I think the best thing is, like I said, the exercise is the best with people, because doing it alone isn't going to get you there. And you're going to be, you might work out. You can say I was in the gym for 3 hours, but what did you accomplish in those 3 hours?
Yeah, I think that holds true for so many people, even without Parkinson's. Having a buddy system helps with any type of
getting
thing that's difficult. So, but more even
getting them to the gym.
Yeah.
So
exactly. Yeah.
And you have to do it every day, something every day, because I'm hearing so often from a friend too that with Parkinson's, he says, well, yeah. I said, did you do your exercises yesterday? He goes, oh no. And I says, what did you do all day? Well, I just sat on the couch. And I'm like, you can't spend the day on the couch and never stand up and actually, like just stand up. So, because one of these days you're going to go to want to stand up and you're not going to get to stand up.
You stop moving.
And that's the scary part.
Yeah. Exactly.
And that's true of me. I feel like I'm very active and very fit. And then all of a sudden I'll watch a movie with my husband and he's like, what are you doing? I go, I'm trying to get out of the chair. He's like, and I'm just, you're just stiffer from sitting in the chair for an hour and a half, watching the movie. And then I'm standing in front of the chair and he's like, well, what are you doing now? And I'm going, just waiting for my legs to wake up. So it's a process,
Yep.
It'd be best if they had like intermissions. This is the time for people with Parkinson's to stand.
I want that for everybody. Are you kidding me? Everybody needs that. I tell
like
get
3-second intermission. Everyone stand. Okay, sit back down.
Stand up.
Exactly.
A little boogie. Sit back down. Exactly.
Stand up. Lift your arms in the air. Exactly.
So we have covered a lot. Yeah. Is there anything that you feel like we haven't covered that you want to make sure gets said?
If I have a plea to any doctors out there, just find the cure. Let's stop. I'm going to say it. Let's stop fucking around with the goddamn research and just find the fucking cure. I mean, why are we do so much research. I mean, the research we're doing is still somewhat absurd sometimes when I hear something they're looking at. It's like, haven't we looked at that enough? You know, can we just move on? You know, and I'm not saying I'm going to be implanted with a chip in my brain, but at the same time, there's there's things out there, and we have to start moving forward with them instead of sitting on them. And I know it's the pharmaceutical companies, but you know, it's just it's tiring to hear about it. And you know, I think we're on the edge, but at the same time, I had an 85-year-old man say to me, he says, I think they're going to find a cure in my lifetime. And I literally almost wanted to start crying because I'm like, I
Mm,
don't think that's going to happen. And then within 2 years, he was passed. And I'm like, it didn't happen, you know,
mm.
because he had fallen so much, he had hit his head so much
Oh,
that the surgeries, he couldn't survive them.
mhm,
So it's, there are people dying from Parkinson's. I mean, we can call it they're dying from a fall, but they didn't fall on their own. I mean, yes, old people fall, but weak people fall. But at the same time, this man was a strong man and he'd fall, you know, and stuff. So
mhm,
it's just disappointing to watch a community of people that you've loved so much and you've worked out with so much,
mhm,
and you just start losing them. You know, it's like, and being the one of the younger ones, you know, at 58, it's like I'm going to watch a few of them go, and it's just terrifying to me. I
mhm,
don't know. Yeah, that's hard. So, so you have to keep fighting, but that's true of the researchers and the doctors and the people too. It's like they have to have the drive instead of sitting around going, well, I got my $1 million grant for my research. And it's like, I don't really care. What's
mhm.
your research telling me? Well, we're still working on the data. It's like, I'm going to take my data.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, thank you,
Sorry, that's
Vicki. It
a little
has
bit of a rant.
been
I think it's been an
wonderful
hour of
talking.
ranting.
No, no ranting. It's all really good stuff, and I'm really glad that you were willing to share this with us, with my people.
I
And
do hope it made sense. That's
it
all I can
does.
say.
It totally makes sense. And some people might say, "Oh, I'm so there," and some people may say, "Well, that's not really where I am in my journey. It doesn't work for me." But
Right.
that's okay.
Right. And that's where everybody's different too, for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah.
Because yeah, because I don't know anybody that's had. I don't know anyone that has had, you know, the thyroid problems, the seizure problems, the Parkinson's problems, the
Hmm.
etc. That's the unusual part of my story, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah,
But thank you. I appreciate it.
thank you.